Hello everybody. So today this video is going to be on choosing a strong topic for your essays. I'm going to cover a couple tips, so hopefully they help you when considering a title for your essay. Okay, so what do I think is important? I think that the essay should be reflected, the topic should be reflected in the title. So just by reading the title alone, somebody should be able to predict what will be covered more or less in the essay. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it shouldn't feel like the title is just clickbait, and it shouldn't feel like it's just, you know, like some sort of rickroll. So the title should also be keyword friendly and Google rich. You want to think about the jargon that academics use on a given topic, and so what keywords would they be looking for in Google? What keywords would they put in EBSCO? How would they search? How will your essay be indexed? And this is really important because most things nowadays are indexed through some sort of search engine, whether it's Google, EBSCO, or YouTube. Okay, so yes, the title should be unique and eye-catching. If a professor, for instance, and many of you are going to be submitting papers to your professors are going to read a lot of papers on a similar topic, so having a creative title could, you know, help your paper sort of stand out amongst the crowd. The last point is that a good title should be more than a word, you know, just 1 or 2 words long. This generally covers or solves some of the problems with making your title more keyword rich. It's hard to include a lot of keywords if your title is only 1 or 2 words long. It's hard to be eye-catching and unique if your title is only 1 or 2 words long, and it's also hard to cover the topic if your title is only 1 or 2 words long. So try experimenting with longer titles and even subtitles, which we'll get to in a moment. Ideas for consideration: you want to think about who your ideal audience is. So start with something that is academic sounding, but could also appeal to popular culture. So I think that a good title should rank high on the "that's interesting" scale. So it should be a sexy title, should be something that people would want to read if they saw it on Facebook, or something that they would want to read if they saw it in the suggestion box on the side of their YouTube, or even if they saw it on EBSCO and the library database. And then lastly, you know, what is the goal of the essay? If the title is a little bit too strong or strident, and your goal is to get people who disagree with you to read the essay, it might not work out. So an example might be Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion. So if his goal is to get people who are believers to read his book, he might sort of put them off just with the title alone. The mini thesis statement. For the most part, titles should serve almost like a mini thesis statement that generally overviews what the paper will cover, while perhaps withholding the answer or maybe part of the answer. In the first example, this one's by Dean Savage. His video is called "Why Monogamy is Ridiculous." That's actually, monogamy is ridiculous is his thesis statement. He doesn't believe in it, or at least he claims not to believe in it. And what's interesting and what is withheld is the answer, the why part. The next example is by a woman named Ash Beckham, who gives a TED Talk called "When to Take a Stand and When to Let It Go." In this title, it's a little bit more vague, but the "when to take a stand" part, you can get a sense that it's going to be about advocacy or social justice to some degree. And it's also actually a play on words. The "let it go" part is a reference to Frozen. So she gives a example about her niece and going to go see a sort of Frozen exhibit at a toy store. The next example is by a lady named Nancy Jo Salas, and the title of her article is called "Tinder and the Dawn of the Dating Apocalypse." So we know the topic is going to be about Tinder and online dating, and we sort of know the thesis that she doesn't see Tinder as very favorable in terms of how it's impacting dating life today. Okay, and the last one is a paper by Camille Paglia, who's a very provocative writer, and her essay is called "Lady Gaga and the Death of Sex." So we know it's going to be about sexuality, we know it's going to be about Lady Gaga, and right off the bat we get a sense that she doesn't view Lady Gaga favorably. Okay, so the subtitle. Ask this question of yourself: how many times have you used a subtitle throughout your student academic career? And if it's not many, then I would challenge you to use a subtitle, because it's really powerful in adding some depth to the title and adding visibility to the title, because it can help you include those Google-friendly keywords. And it can help you sort of expand on a creative title that maybe doesn't fully overview the topic. So we'll look at a few examples, and I think you can see right away why the subtitle works and why they're so useful. So the first example, The Demon Haunted World, Science is a Candle in the Dark. So if you just read The Demon Haunted World, you might think it's more of a horror story, but it's actually a book about science and the difference between what is science and what is pseudoscience. And by the way, this one's by Carl Sagan. I highly recommend the book. It's one of the best books that I've read. And the next example, Failed States. This one's by Noam Chomsky. But the abuse of power and the assault on democracy, I think that sort of captures readers' attention a little bit more and sort of attracts, I think, more readers, while also including another keyword in democracy and also power. Okay, so in the last example, Freakonomics, which is a really cool, I think, unique title, but it doesn't necessarily capture all the keywords. So a rogue economist explores the hidden side of everything. The Economist might be a little bit more keyword friendly in terms of Google, and it just sort of helps explain what the title's about. So all of these are really good. You can see that it had a shorter sort of regular title, and that the subtitle makes it a bit longer, but also helps to add depth and clarity. Okay, so the rules. So the first and last word of a title or subtitle should always be capitalized. Do not capitalize prepositions, conjunctions, and articles. So the conjunctions meaning, the fanboys, for, and, or, but, or, yet, and so. And the articles, there's only 3 of them, being and the. And we'll go over prepositions, or I can link a list of prepositions for you to memorize. I recommend memorizing them. The words like on, in, of, etc. Do not capitalize the word to, whether it's used as a preposition or an infinitive. And capitalize the second word when using hyphens or dashes. So let's go back a few slides to see some examples. Okay, so why monogamy is ridiculous. None of the words there fall into the category of words that shouldn't be capitalized that we looked at. But let's look at the second one, when to take a stand and when to let it go. You'll notice that the first 2 there isn't capitalized because it is an infinitive, and a isn't capitalized because it is an article, and is capitalized even though it is one of the fanboys, and that's because it comes after a dash. And then the next 2 isn't capitalized because it's an infinitive. Okay, so the next title, Tinder and the Dawn of the Dating Apocalypse, you'll notice that and isn't capitalized because it is a conjunction. The isn't capitalized because it is an article. Of isn't capitalized because it's a preposition, and the isn't capitalized because it is an article. And then the last title here, Lady Gaga and the Death of Sex, and isn't capitalized because it is a conjunction, the isn't capitalized because it is an article, and of isn't capitalized because it's a preposition. So those are the general rules. Some general tips. Always begin each essay with a rough working title, just as a starting point, if nothing else, to sort of help give you a reminder of what your topic is and what you're trying to accomplish with your essay. Then you can work from there and revise the title. So some ways to do that is to ask 2 other people or 3 other people, potentially your peer reviewers, to title your essay. You may find that you like all or part of the title, and you can sort of put them together. So maybe you find that you really like one person's title, and then you use the other person's suggestion as a subtitle. You can also rewrite or revisit the title once you finish the paper. So you might find that your thesis has evolved slightly, and then you can sort of adjust the title to reflect the new thesis. Write down the first 3 or 4 titles that come to mind. You can pick between those, so you can do this several times and see what comes out, and maybe hopefully something good will come out. Or you can choose different parts of those titles too. You can do what you did above when you get a suggestion, is to just sort of put some of them together. This is one that I don't do myself, but I think it would be cool to try. You can choose a phrase or sentence from your essay as your title. This is actually kind of cool, because then once that person comes to that sentence as they're reading your essay, it will stand out a little bit more. So I haven't tried it yet, but I want to. I think it's a good idea. Jot down some related words to your topic that you think are provocative and would attract attention, and you can see, how can you create a title around these words. So citing and referencing other works in your papers, essentially, when citing or referencing other works in your title of your essay itself, or in the paper, all the same capitalization rules that we discussed earlier would apply. Longer works should be italicized: books, plays, albums, newspapers, titles, TV shows. Smaller works that are part of a larger work should be placed in quotation marks, so this would include book chapters, essays, songs, articles, episodes. So a good example would be a CD. So if you take Michael Jackson's Off the Wall album, the album would be italicized. If you just look at the song Off the Wall, it would be in quotation marks. So just in general, think about it. If it can be split into smaller pieces, then it goes in quotation marks. If it is the larger piece, then it would go in italics or would be underlined if you handwrite it. Okay, so that's it. Those are the basics. Hopefully these tips have helped you out a little bit, and I hope that you take some of the suggestions and practice and use them as you write papers for this class.